want to play football.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Sacred Saturdays podcast. We are in the middle of false fall here in the Colorado region, which means we're not quite in summer, not quite in fall. We haven't decided if we want to be hot or we want to be cold. But every time you walk into one of those Targets, or Walmarts, or King Soopers, or whatever your store of choice may be, you do smell that faint whiff of the preseason magazines such as Athlon or ESPN. And that must mean we are approaching another college football season. That's right, everybody. We have a full slate of games coming up this Saturday, August 29th. So that means we wanted to come back to you, talk a little bit of football before we get ready. For those of you that haven't met me, my name is Tony Casolo. I'm one of the owners, co-founders of Sacred Saturdays. We love college football. We love talking about it. We love hearing about it. We would love for you guys to join the conversation. You can follow us on X at Sacred Saturdays or Sacred.Saturdays on Instagram and TikTok. And now we will actually be broadcasting to both YouTube on our Sacred Saturdays channel, as well as Rumble to my personal channel at Lots of Boba Fett. So let's get into it. We had a crazy offseason when it comes to college football. And I want to talk about something a little bit different. And that would be the latest edition of College Football 27. We had something that we usually don't see when it comes to corporate dumbassery, in that EA Sports actually backtracked, and it was largely due to people such as Bordeaux or Not the Expert that started a massive trend and got them to back down on some really crappy policies that they were instituting. So first, for any of you content creators that I didn't name out there, I would like to salute you for standing up, doing what you think was right. For those of you that didn't follow that controversy this year, there's a couple of modes within College Football 27, both the Dynasty mode where you can build up your favorite team, or the Road to Glory mode where you take an individual player and build their career. They added in microtransactions to all of those and took away things such as XP sliders, different things that you could do to affect the game. And there was major backlash due to guys, like I mentioned, like Bordeaux or Not the Expert. And we actually got it to a point where EA Sports backed down on those and removed all of those crappy policies that they had instituted. Could be something that we see coming down the line. Could be something that we maybe see in future editions of the game. But at least for this year, we were able to get them to back down. So again, we salute you, Bordeaux. We salute you, Not the Expert. Thank you for taking up that mantle and fighting for other gamers such as myself. Now we get into actual football, and we see that the top 25 has come out recently, and everyone's chasing Indiana. And I know that's hard for a lot of you even to hear or think about, that Indiana is our reigning national champion. For any of you that have followed college football for a long time, know how strange it is to hear a program such as Indiana at the top of the mountaintop. But that's just a testament to how much Curt Cignetti has come in and changed the face of that program. Obviously, they've had a lot of turnover. They lost Fernando Mendoza, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, to the NFL. So we'll have to see. So who are the teams that are going to be chasing them? Well, actually, both in the AP and the coaches poll, it's a familiar face we see at the top of the list. We see Ohio State. Ohio State is loaded with talent this year. They had a great quarterback named last year in Julian Sayin. He can continue that ascension. Could they knock off their Big Ten foes? Indiana got the best of them, I think, twice last year. And then when we look at the top 10, we see a lot of the familiar faces. We see your Oregons, we see your Georgias, we see your Notre Dames, we see your Texases. Who is going to be the team? Could Indiana repeat? I can't even remember the last time that we had a national champion that repeated. Could it be Indiana's time this year to do it again? Only time will tell. They'll need to break in a new quarterback. I believe they had Josh Hoover from TCU. Everyone's going to be chasing the Hoosiers. We'll see what happens. When we look at the offseason, it's really hard to not look at the Brandon Sorsby scandal that broke out in the Big 12 and in the rest of the country. It really kind of blew my mind that it got to the point that it was still at. You have a guy that's admitted to gambling close to $100,000 on his own team, other games, and there were actually people defending his ability to still come and play for Texas Tech. And I never really got the arguments about, it happened when he was at Cincinnati, or it happened when he was, somewhere else. That shouldn't be punished for now. I mean, it just kind of blew my mind. There were people that would be actually defending it. But it did kind of warm my heart because it made me realize that sports fans will always be sports fans. And if it's good for you, you'll defend it to the end. It was actually kind of funny. Those of you that watched us last year, Juice or Justin, specifically referenced one of the funniest parts of the whole scandal was the court in Lubbock granting the temporary injunction to allow him to play. And he's like, oh, that's good old fashioned just cheating football right there. That's that reminds me of like the SMU scandal or something. That makes it so that we aren't too far from our classic cheating college football ways, which made me laugh. But ultimately, I think the best thing did happen in him being declared ineligible or just moving away from the program. Obviously, it left a big hole on Texas Tech's roster, one that could potentially be filled by Thomas Castellanos. That's the latest rumblings, is he could be headed there. But we'll have to see. Obviously, Texas Tech in the last couple of years has become at least a title contender. I'm looking again here on both the AP and the coaches poll. They're number 12 to start the season. So they have a ton of talent, and they're obviously probably the runaway favorites in the Big 12 to at least start the year. But we'll have to just see how much this scandal affects their future, not only this year, but down the line. You had some Big Ten teams that were saying they didn't even want to play them. So we're just going to have to see. Obviously, the other big story is how much conference realignment is just absolutely changing the game when it comes to college football. We saw a bunch of movement, not necessarily with the Power Four this year, but mainly with the group of six beyond that. One of the things I like to see, obviously, I was very sad with how the Pac-12 has just become a shell of itself. They were able to bring in quite a few interesting teams. People here locally, at least Colorado, will be paying attention because Colorado State has made the jump to the Big 12, or the Pac-12. But you have some other faces that have had some pretty good highs when it comes to like a Boise State, a Fresno State, a San Diego State. There's some quality teams that are moving from the Mountain West over to the Pac-12. And then, of course, that also meant that the Mountain West had to reload. And that's where I think one of the most intriguing teams that will be new to the FBS level this year in North Dakota State. That's a jump I've been wanting to see for quite a while. Obviously, I got to see them up close and personal with them playing CU just a few years ago. And now, I think I saw where they were voted at maybe like 10th to win the Pac-12 this year, or I'm sorry, the Mountain West. I think they could be a force to be reckoned with almost right from the start. They could be one of those teams that's maybe even knocking on the door of a playoff spot within the next couple of years, especially with the NCAA, I think, changing their rule to allow first-year teams to be bowl eligible or compete in a playoff. North Dakota State has always been giant killers. I think they even beat like a ranked Iowa at one point. Obviously, they beat CSU one year. They've beaten a bunch of quality FBS programs, and they are going to be a very good team at the FBS level. Obviously, I mentioned it a little bit here. Conference realignment has obviously affected both Air Force and CSU. Air Force won't get to see CSU every year with them moving on to the Pac-12. But the other big change that we've seen, at least locally here, is the hiring of Jim Mora, who's been obviously a really good coach at the NFL level, has made some strides with UConn, and now comes to Fort Collins to try and turn around that program. That has really been, up and down, but mostly down over the last couple of years. I think they went 2-10 last year. They need some help, and it's nice to see that we have a guy like Jim Mora coming in. Will CSU be a place that he hangs his hat for a long time? We'll have to see. But there's going to be a pretty interesting quarterback battle there when it comes to the Rams. Obviously, they got Kassan Farhar. I think it's Farhar is the way you pronounce his name, who comes from UConn. So actually follows Jim Mora. And then another intriguing guy that got a little bit of playing time, but then I think ultimately his season was ended by injury, but a guy named Haas Henji, who comes from Oklahoma State. That's going to be the competition. It sounds like Jim Mora is not going to be making any decisions on who that starter will be. Will probably have to be almost up till game time. I think they play Wyoming to start the season. So it might be a 2-quarterback system until we make a decision early on in the year. When it comes to their former conference rival in Air Force, they're actually pretty set when it comes to the quarterback position, in that they will be having Liam Zarka be their starter again. Their big question is who's going to come off the bench if Zarka gets hurt. Now, usually with the Air Force offense and being so run heavy and utilizing the quarterback in the run game, you got to have some quality backups, because sooner or later, someone's going to have to probably come in for even a drive, a snap, maybe even a game. I see where it's probably down to a couple quarterbacks about who might be backing him up. I know we have senior Josh Johnson, who's had some playing time in the last couple of years. And then it sounds like maybe that's going to be a competition with Evan Metters as to who's going to be Zarka's primary backup. But the main question you always ask with Air Force is, when is the bounce back going to happen? They've had their down years under Coach Calhoun in his 20 years of coaching, but they're never down for long. I think this is about the second or third year in a row that they've had a losing record, which is honestly surprising because they've been competitive in all of Coach Calhoun's career. You have some really good guys coming back on the roster, like an Owen Allen, a Blake Fletcher on defense. I suspect this is probably the year we see a bounce back, and this could be a year where Air Force is actually competing for a Mountain West title. You have some other teams up there, like a UNLV, someone who I pay attention to because of my proximity to my brother and his affiliations with UNLV. Hawaii is probably going to be a really good team, especially with their talent that they have at the quarterback position. You could maybe even see, like I referenced, in North Dakota State sneaking into that discussion. So I think when it's all said and done, Air Force will be there kind of towards the top of the conference. I think I'm starting to see that there's going to be a major bounce back year here from the Falcons under Coach Calhoun. And then finally, the team that's closest to my heart, what are the Buffs going to do this year? It's been really up and down in Coach Prime's tenure so far with the team. Obviously we set the world on fire with our undefeated start. Obviously the big comeback and overtime finish against Colorado State our first year here with Coach Prime. Then we had the losing streak on top of that. Ultimately finished at 4-8. Huge year next year with Shedeur Sanders and the Heisman Trophy winner Travis Hunter leading the charge. Got to, I believe, 9-3. Played in a bowl game. Wasn't successful against BYU, but huge year. And then really disappointing finish last year. I had thought we had the pieces in place. I was a big fan of the pieces that we brought in to try and replace like a Shedeur Sanders or a Travis Hunter. Ultimately, they just didn't work out. And I referenced this a few times with Juice last year, where it really felt like CU was reeling from a bad free agent signing. And that's something totally new to the college football landscape. We didn't find the right quarterback in the transfer portal. Now, obviously, we're going to be turning it over to a very young quarterback, Julian Lewis. He had all of the accolades. He was a 5-star at points in the recruiting cycle. And he's going to be learning a new offense that I'm really excited about. Brendan Marion, obviously a guy that I know very well because of my UNLV connections. I watched him running the go-go offense. Go-go is very exciting and based off of the run and taking shots down the field. I think this could be the year where we finally see a consistent run game out of the Buffs. I'm very excited for the direction that the offense is going in, both with a very young, talented quarterback that needs to find his way and a guy like Brendan Marion coming in to run the offense. I like some of the pieces that they've brought in on defense. I think they've solidified the line a little bit more. It is unfortunately looking like we're not going to have Ezra Christensen like we thought we would. That could be a huge loss, but I do think I like a lot of the moves that we made, especially at the linebacker position. I think we're going to be very, very solid at the linebacker position. So I see the Buffs making a run at a bowl game. Do I think it's one where we approach double-digit wins like we did 2 years ago? No. But I think the Buffs will be competing for a bowl game. With all that being said, we have some actual football games to talk about, and I could not be more excited. Obviously, the one that's highlighted right at the top there, kicking off the season in Las Vegas, the Rebels will be welcoming in Memphis. Memphis is always kind of one of those sneaky teams. They seem to always have a good offense. They seem to always find quarterbacks. This could be a really tough game for UNLV, especially with them breaking in a new quarterback. Is it going to be Jackson Arnold? Is it going to be Alex Orji, transfer from last year coming off of injury? Is it going to be both? We don't know. I'm really excited to see that game. I'm hoping that UNLV can pull it out, but we never really know with these early season games, especially with another really good group of 6 team coming into Las Vegas to start the season. I apologize. The other big primetime matchup that we're going to see is the Dublin kickoff game, which pits TCU against North Carolina. Obviously, I referenced it in talking about Indiana, but TCU is going to be breaking in a new quarterback. And then what are we going to see out of North Carolina? This is a team, obviously we were infatuated with the addition of Bill Belichick. Didn't work out in his first year, but could they make a run at a bowl? Could they be a winning team? Are they going to be bad again? We're not really sure. So many other teams. I think the only ranked team that looks like that's going to be in action is going to be number 14 USC taking on San Jose State. Probably should be a pretty easy game for the Trojans. I've seen here there's a matchup between Virginia and NC State. I'm a big CJ Bailey fan. I'm just infatuated with his size and athletic ability at the quarterback position. And then a Virginia team that actually did pretty well last year. I think was able to get to top 25 during points of the season. And this is a really good early season ACC matchup, probably for like those middle tier teams that'll be competing. Which ones can make that jump up into the upper echelon of the ACC? I will be definitely focusing on. You see here, North Dakota State is going to be welcoming in Jacksonville State. So I'm a big fan of the Bison and what they put on the field each year. I'd like to see a spread on that. I don't know if there is a spread. Let me just see here really quickly. I don't see it. I might look it up, but that'll be a fun one to watch. That'll be North Dakota State's first game within the FBS level. Let's take a look here. Jackson State spread. Let's look here. I think I'm looking on FanDuel. Okay, that looks about right. So North Dakota State is a 6.5-point favorite. I could see them kind of running away with the game. Maybe Jacksonville State keeps it close. I don't know. I'm a big believer in the Bison and what they put in year out. So that should be a really good game. And then I see them kind of running away with that one now that I see the spread. Another fun matchup. Actually, another two fun matchups. We see that the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors will be traveling to Stanford. Stanford obviously has had some very good years, especially under Coach Harbaugh, but they have really, really fallen on hard times here. And Hawaii is a sneaky good team. If this was in Hawaii, I would almost say certainly bet on Hawaii to take the game. But that could be an interesting matchup. And then the last one is I see New Mexico State traveling to play Florida State. We'll have to see. We don't really know what Florida State's going to put on the field. Obviously the hot seats there in Tallahassee for Coach Novell, but we don't really know. There's some really fun games. Obviously, this is just going to be a light slate here with these first couple of games, and then we really get into it the week after for Labor Day. Yeah, I think that's all I got for you today. Again, if you guys want to join the conversation, follow us on Sacred Saturdays at Sacred Saturdays on X. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at sacred.saturdays. You can find us on YouTube at sacred.saturdays. And then new to the game, you can find us on Rumble at Lots of Boba Fett. You can also find me on socials at Lots of Boba Fett. I love to talk about my Buffs. I love to talk about Broncos. I'd love to talk to you about any of those channels. All right, guys. College football is here. Let's get ready for it.